I ended up at the East High School in Duluth. And it turns out that at that time I was a bit of a rebel and maybe a little scuzzy, a little bit of a rebel, a little scumbag, a little pot smoking scumbag, kid, degenerate. Not exactly, but essentially. I didn't have a lot of direction. I did not like school. But what happened was I got to East High School and discovered their art program. And there was a famous teacher named Mel Kumshaw. And Mel Kumshaw had been running a college-level art program at East High School for 30 long years. And I got there at the tail end of his career there. But when I couldn't believe the facilities that they had for photography, for drawing, for painting, for ceramics. It was just college level. It was remarkable, the tools, the facilities we had. And so I fell in love with art. And I started doing painting and ceramics and photography, and we developed all of our own film and did all the printing the old-fashioned way right there at the school. And during that time that I studied with Mel Kumshaw, my life changed. I became so dedicated to the art that I actually got interested in school in general and started to getting straight A's and performing. It was the art program that brought me along with all of my studies. So during that 3 years in high school, my teacher, Mel Kumshaw, was taking classes with Chen Qi at the University of Minnesota in Duluth. And so we were getting the trickle-down effect from Mr. Qi while I was in high school. And then what happened is when I went to the university, when I graduated from high school and I went to the university, I knew right away what I wanted to do. I had become a very self-directed, very focused individual, and I went straight to Mr. Qi and I said, I want to study with you right away. I'm coming out of high school into college. I know what I want to do, and I beg you to sign because normally you have to take prerequisite classes. And I said to Mr. Qi, I said, I won't do that. I won't take Art 101 or Painting 101 before I can come to study with you. I want to come now. And he reluctantly said, okay, and signed off on the papers so that I was able to come right out of high school and go right into studying with him. And that was a 4-year-long process where I studied with him nonstop for 4 years. After I finished up with him, the next year, he organized a foreign exchange program with the Zhejiang Academy of Fine Arts in China, in Hangzhou, China. And so I was able then in 1985 to go on a summer-long trip with Mr. Qi and a group of professional artists to learn from the great masters at one of the most important art academies in the world. They have an expertise and a mastery of the craft that you cannot learn at a Western college. The history and the techniques and the knowledge is so deep and so rich, and there's a whole philosophy that goes along with that. So it's not just learning to move a brush back and forth, but it's learning the philosophy and the relationship between the brush strokes and the sentiment of their, the Taoist traditions. All of the Chinese characters, if you're doing brush and ink painting and painting Chinese characters, they're pictographs. Each Chinese character is actually a picture. And so the art is in their language. It's in the food, it's in the stories. A lot of times when the Chinese paint brush and ink, they're painting mountain scenes that tell a story, and they'll have villages in there or people fishing on the river. The art and the culture are inextricably bound together through language and through sentiment. And I guess when I studied with Mr. Qi, that was true too. I mean, as he was demonstrating watercolor painting, he would be talking about things like the conservation of materials, and how important it was to use your materials wisely and carefully. I mean, this is a family value, learning to turn out a light before you leave a room. I mean, it's the same thing. You're learning conservation through your Chinese master watercolor painter, for instance. So it's not just it's not just whipping your brush back and forth or having a good time or trying to be avant-garde. Chinese painting, especially the way I learned it through a long, slow process with Mr. Chi, but also the work that we did at the Zhejiang Academy was very traditional Chinese painting with using very, very technical and structured ways of moving your brush, learning how to paint characters, learning how to handle your brush, learning how much water to have on your brush versus the ink, the speed at which you move the brush across the paper. I mean, if you're using Chinese Xuan paper, which is very thin and very absorbent, you better have that brush moving quickly and efficiently and with absolute precision. If you stop and scratch your head, you've got a giant blob of inky water sitting on your paper. So it's just like that alone, I mean, it's just amazing, like all the knowledge, the deep knowledge that you need to have to be able to work with the materials and produce something convincing. It takes years and years of practice and centuries and millennia and centuries of practice to be able to use these materials. That's why you really don't see a lot of professional watercolor painters, because your average person is not willing to go through the frustration of working with these materials for years to figure out how to do it and how to do it with flair.